Hey everybody. So today we're gonna have a look at a simple web page that I created where you enter your zip code and then you decide what kind of units you want to use, and then it will give you the local weather for whatever that zip code is. So let's do a little bit. So I did some error checking also. So you put in your zip code, put in some random stuff. Sorry, not a valid zip code. Please enter a valid 5-digit zip code. And if you put in something 5 digits, but it's not a valid zip code. Zip code can't be found. Please enter a valid 5-digit zip code. So let's try another random number. Okay, no, one more. Okay, last try. Hey, there we go. I typed in 32547. I guess that is Fort Walton Beach. I have no idea where that is. And this is in our metric unit. So it gives us the cloud coverage. So it looks like it's quite clear there. And visibility 16 kilometers, temperature 25 degrees Celsius, humidity, wind speed, and then our wind is coming from the northwest. And if we click on imperial units, get weather, same information, but this is the 77 degrees Fahrenheit, 3 miles per hour, and visibility is 10 miles. Yeah, so it's quite simple, not that beautiful. I'm not an expert of HTML or CSS, so it's just quite simple. All right, so first I want to look at where did we get the information and the data for this? So this came from openweathermap.org, and you just go to their API page, and it'll give you a lot of different types of data that you can use. And we went with the current weather data, but there's also hourly forecast, long-term forecast, historical data, etc., etc. But we just wanted this one. So we just go in here. First, you have to register for their site, and they'll give you an API key, and you have to use that to get the data. If you don't have that, then you cannot get the data anyway. All right, so just click on this one. And we wanted to go by, not by city idea, coordinates, and by zip code. Yeah, so we just want people to put in their zip code, and they'll get it from that. And this gives you the type of call that it is. And here's an example. So let's click on this and have a look at what information we get. Yeah, so this is their example. You can't use this. So this is the zip code that it's from. It's in the United States, and here is their API ID. So when you register, it'll give you this long key that you have to put at the end of yours to be able to get this data. Right. And the one I got is in JSON format. So whenever we call this and we get this information, it's going to be in a JSON format that we have to deserialize to be able to get all these variables that we can use in the rest of our program. Yeah, so let's have a look at that right now at the programming behind all of this. So we just got two things. Here is our web page with the HTML and CSS, and here is all the code behind it. So first, let's have a look at let's have a look at the web form first, and then we'll look at the code behind it. So this is pretty simple. Just has a, I actually don't know what this is called. Yeah, but this gives you a lot of the background information. This is in C#. The code behind is from this page, and it here's all that information. Yeah, so this isn't too important. This is all going to be standardized. And then here's where our HTML and CSS begins. It gives you our title, some CSS information. This is going to give you some of the more stylistic points if you want to change any of this. Style head body. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so form ID, form 1, run at server. So this is going to make it an active page. So this is going to be whenever you click on a button, it's going to create an action. So normal HTML and CSS pages are static, but we're going to create a active server page, ASP active server pages. So we got the text, enter your zip code below, ASP text box. So there's the name of our text box. We'll be getting this later. And we're going to use this information, whatever entered in there, to put into the URL to get that information. And our ASP button, that button we clicked on, get weather, run at server, on click is going to call this. Yeah, so quickly looking over right here, get weather info. Yeah, so when you click it, it's going to call this. It's going to send in all of the information we need to help get to our active server page and get that table out. Right. Then the radio button list that we had there, so you can select the different empirical or metric units. I made a radio button list, so I can add a lot of different ones. And then you just put in that, name of the list, not important, run at server, not important. And then here's the text, list item text, and then our value. So we're going to look at in a second. I'm going to have if the value is 1, it's going to convert it to imperial units. And if it's not 1, it's going to be using the metric units. Then I have a selected true. So this means the default value is going to be this one. So if you wanted to, if you had a button list with 10 different things and you wanted the last one to be selected, you can change whatever you wanted to selected true. Okay, then we're going to look at this in a second too. So this is kind of at the end of all of our code. Here it is, table whether visible. Yeah, so label success. This will be giving us that little sentence that we had below. Actually, where was that? That was up towards here. Yeah, there it is, label success. So after we did the error checking, this is the string that came out. So this will also be entered. So here's your local weather, or if there's an error, here's what it's going to say, etc., etc. All right, so going down and, okay, yeah, so here is our table. So once you get all this information and it's successful, you click the button, it's going to create this table. And so we got table weather, run at server, just some more styling information, and our visibility is false. Visibility is false. So in our code over here, I have to go through all of that. Table weather visible equals true. Yeah, so it's going to set it to true. So once it goes through all of this, it's actually going to create that table. Yeah, so now we have it set to false. So now you can't even see it. Then I got the different things inside the table. City ASP label IDs. This is the one that we're going to call in our program. The label city, and it's going to put the name of the city after this. And then weather info, and there's some other ones. Cloud coverage, same thing, label ID, visibility, label ID, temperature, humidity, wind speed, and wind is from the So yeah, so you could choose a lot of different things. We'll look at in a second all the other different types of values that we can put in here. Yeah, then it goes, closes the table, closes the form, closes the body, closes the HTML. So this is quite simple, nothing too beautiful, nothing too special. All right, so let's look at the code behind it. All right, so this is the one that gets called get weather info. So we're going to receive that. I got a couple of variables that we're using throughout all of the rest of the methods. So I got an integer Boolean success. Yeah, so this is where we're going to get the zip code, and we're going to try to parse that as an integer. Yeah, so if not, then it's going to give you, sorry, zip code is invalid. But if it does, it's going to try to make sure that it's a valid URL. And then our units, that one where we had our units list. So same thing, we're going to get that one and then change that to an integer. All right, so I got my first error checking. If textzip.textdocs length is not equal to 5. So zip codes must be 5 numbers. Success equals false. Yeah, so if it's not exactly 5 digits, or not 5 anything, 5 letters, then sorry, zip code is invalid. Please enter a valid 5-digit zip code. And that goes into the label success.text. Yeah, and then table whether visible is true, and we return it. Yeah, so here, we're going to get our URL. So string.format. So this is the URL we want to send. All right. So here's the full thing. And then after zip, we have this. Curly bracket 0. And then a close curly bracket. And from that, we'll enter the text.zip. So whatever is entered into the zip code will be put in right here. And this will be sent in for the URL so we can get that data. Yeah, so website create URL, rub request, rub response. So this is where we get the response from that. Yeah, so we're going to get a string format. Oh yeah, this is the one, if all of this works, it's able to get the website. Congratulations, here's your local weather. And if not, so if it's not able to get the successful URL. Sorry, zip cannot be found. Please enter a valid one. All right. Okay, so we have our URL that we got from up here, string URL, to see if it's successful or not. And then, yeah, so if it is successful, we're going to create a new web client called client. And then we get to client.downloadString URL. So this is going to take the URL and it's going to download a string with all of that information right here. So this will come out just one long string. And we'll just call that string JSON. So now once we get this string, we have to deserialize it. So we'll create a new root object, and we'll look at this in 1 second. Root object called weather info. So deserialize root object JSON, and they call it a JavaScript deserializer. So it's going to take all of that, and then looking down here, yeah, so here's all of our different classes. So here is our root object. So it's going to take all that information and it's going to parse it into different other classes I have or to different variables. So for example, it calls the wind. So it's going to create a new class called wind. Then it's going to go to that right here, wind, and it's going to put in these two variables, the speed, and then which angle is the wind coming in from. So all of that get parsed. That way we can use this later on. Okay, there we are. All right. So it does that one, success. Here's your local weather. Then all that we were looking at before, label city.text. So it's going to take this information and put it into that text that we had over here. Where's that at? Yeah, so city, label ID, label city, LBL city. Yeah, so whatever is after this, city, comma, is whatever is going to be coming from right here. Yeah, so string format, same thing. We just want to call whatever is after this comma. And then it's going to be our weatherinfo.name, weatherinfo.name. So let's look at where that came from. Weatherinfo, there it is, weatherinfo.name is right here. Yeah, so this is our main one, the root object, weatherinfo that we just created, .name. So we're taking this public string, and that's the name of the city. All right, then we got our clouds. So we want to see what percentage of the sky is covered in clouds. So weatherinfo.clouds.all. So let's look at where that came from. Weatherinfo.clouds.all. Yeah, so this is an integer. It just gives you the percentage of the cloud cover. All right. So now we get into, do we need to change it to empirical units or metric units? Yeah, so we got our, this is the visibility. Yeah, so summary, this is the visibility. So we got a weatherinfo.visibility, and it is actually in meters. So it gives you the visibility in meters. So if it's metric, we want to convert it to kilometers. Yeah, so we take our weatherinfo.visibility, divide by 1,000. And if it's in the imperial units, we want to convert it into miles. So visibility divided by 1,000 divided by 1.6 to convert that into miles. And that's going to be in a standard integer. I could have done it in a double, but I think that's not really important. They just want to see, is it 5 miles, 10 miles, 12 miles, etc. All right, then to get our temperature, and the number it gives you is actually in kelvins, and nobody would find that useful. We don't care what the temperature is in kelvins. We want to convert it into Fahrenheit or Celsius. So first, we get the weatherinfo.main.temp. We get the temperature in kelvins, and then we convert it into this one, ktemp. So I want to convert that into Celsius. So kelvins minus 273 converts it into Celsius. Yeah, so we can do that one, Celsius. Then I convert Celsius into Fahrenheit. multiply it by 9/5 plus 32. Actually had to go into Google and to find out how do you convert Celsius into Fahrenheit. In our wind speeds, we want to get the wind. How fast is the wind blowing? And the number it gives you is actually in meters per second. Once again, not very useful to the layman person. So if it's in kilometers per hour, same thing. So convert meters per second to kilometers per hour, we actually multiply it by 3.6. And if you want it miles per hour, we do the same thing, multiply it by 3.6 and divide it by 1.6 to get it into miles per hour. Right, and now I wanted to get the wind direction. Yeah, so it gives you the degrees of which angle the wind is blowing from. So for example, if it's blowing from the east, it'll be at 90 degrees. Yeah, but that'd be pretty useless information just to put 90 degrees. So I wanted to convert it to northeast, east, southeast, south, etc. Yeah, so I created a double wind degrees, and then we got that number. And I want to make a string called the wind coordinates. So we'll be converting one of these ones into our wind coordinates. So it'll give us more useful information. Yeah, so I created a bunch of if, else if, and an else statement. So for example, if the wind direction is more than this number and less than this number, that means it's blowing from the northeast. Yeah, and then if it's that same one, more than that number, less than this number is from the east, going through all 8 different cardinal directions, and then saving that as the wind coordinates. And last one I had there was the humidity. Yeah, so get our humidity, same thing, just put it as a percentage and put it out there. Then it goes through all of that. Table weather.visible equals true. So then it will show that table. We can get all the information. Okay, yeah, it's pretty as simple as that. I know it's not too pretty, it's pretty bare bones, but it does go through everything, has some error checking and parsing the data, saving as different classes, and then putting it into more meaningful information instead of just giving the user the raw data.